Hello, my name is Patty Wood-Finkel, and I am going to be the chair for our lightning talk sessions. Lightning talks are our 5-minute talks, so we're going to run through these pretty quickly. If you have questions, please feel free to find our speakers out during the break and ask them. Unfortunately, because the talks are only 5 minutes, we don't have time for questions. Speakers, as I'm introducing you, if you would like to come up and go ahead and start working your way this way, that would be awesome. We have all of your talks queued up and ready to go, so we'll be able to rotate through that fairly quickly. So, yeah, our first talk is Opening the Doors, Presenting Natural History Collections to the Public by Grace Flanagan from the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew.
Good morning, everybody. First talk of the day. So as said, I'm Grace Flanagan. I'm from Kew, and I'm here to talk about our open day that we had last September. So just a little bit about the herbarium. So Kew's herbarium started off in 1852, and it was the private collection of William Hooker, and it was housed within Hunter House, which is still here today. Um, Further on, when more room was needed, there was a permanent purpose-built herbarium built in 1877, which you can see here, beautifully built. Further wings were built in 1903, 1969, 1989, and most recently in 2010. And currently, the herbarium houses over 7 million specimens. So Kew is very much a historic site, and with it, we usually only have planned visitors to the herbarium, which include researchers, artists, and students, which means it's not really open to the general public. However, visitors of the garden often come up to us and ask us questions about what the herbarium is and what happens in the herbarium. And they are very much interested in the scientific research that goes on at Kew. So last summer, we decided to bring the public up close with our collections. So we opened the doors of the herbarium and allowed the public around the historic wings of the herbarium for the first time in 7 years for one weekend in September as a part of London's Open House Festival. Hundreds of members of the community in Greater London area came wanting to know more about the work that Kew does, as well as the history of the building itself. So over the weekend, we shared the history of the herbarium, why herbaria are so important to the conservation and recording of biodiversity, and the stories of historic and current researchers within Kew's walls. We answered many questions visitors had about Kew's collections, such as how they can access it through our digitisation program, what they can use the collection for, what's the oldest specimen, and where are the specimens from, as well as some more fun questions such as whether we had specimens relating to witchcraft. So this is just one of our cases that we had, which was full of historic specimens. So the four that we have, so that one at the end, it's a grass specimen collected by Darwin during his voyage on the Beagle. The next one beside it coming in is an acacia species collected in India, and it's our oldest specimen, which was collected in 1696 by Samuel Brown in India as a part of the Pettifer collection. The next one beside it is part of the Giles collection, which was collected in the south of the UK, and are beautiful, beautiful specimens, just well preserved and pressed and everything. And then the last specimen, which is the one closest, is part of the Wallet collection, which many of you might have known about, which was a large collection of specimens from India. So we did come to some bumps on the road. So some issues we came across was limited space. Kew is a historic build, or the herbarium is a historic building, and oftentimes things can be narrow. Some of the cases didn't have a lot of room for people to stand around, and so people couldn't really see the collections that we had out sometimes. Oops, sorry. Something that we also had was timing of groups. We had groups very close together, so if anybody had questions and they wanted to spend more time looking at the specimens, they'd often kind of bump into the next group that was coming along. So we kind of needed to slow down, have some more room for comments and questions from the presenters and from the people who came to see the collections. Next time was just having staff time off. So because we were constantly going through tours and we had a ton of groups going through at a time, oftentimes staff didn't really have time to sit down, have a drink of water, Even one person said that they didn't have time for lunch, which is not good. So that's one thing that we need to work on. We also had a wedding happen or within Q's main gardens, but we have a room that is often used for the signing of the certificate. And that was also in a room that we were using to present some of our work. And so we had that time kind of, or the afternoon of that second day where we couldn't present that material, which was unfortunate. So some changes we've already made for this year is that we've brought in another case into our orchid herbarium, which you can see here, our orchid atrium, sorry. And so we'll have more room to present to people. And so people will be able to see more of our work, be able to spread out more. Another thing is making sure that we have that space that people can see stuff. We've also taken on some volunteer tour guides to help increase our numbers of staff during those days. That way, everybody will get a break. Everyone can sit down and have a drink of water. And we've already started really planning for this to really make sure that our cases are engaging and that volunteers and visitors will have enough time to look at what we have, get prepped on it, but also make a really engaging tour for the people to come. And we are also planning on working with the events team and making sure that everybody can has time within the herbarium and no parts are cut off. And we really had a lot of support from the community, which was great. And I hope to see you there in September.